Day 14, a study in Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 14, the way that seems right. The wisest of women builds her house, but folly with her own hands tears it down. Whoever walks in uprightness fears the Lord, but he who is devious in his ways despises him. By the mouth of a fool comes a rod for his back, but the lips of the wise will preserve them. Where there are no oxen, the manger is clean, but abundant crops come by the strength of the ox. A faithful witness does not lie, but a false witness breathes out lies. A scoffer seeks wisdom in vain, but knowledge is easy for a man of understanding. Leave the presence of a fool, for there you do not meet words of knowledge. The wisdom of the prudent is to discern his way, but the folly of fools is deceiving. Fools mock at the guilt offering, but the upright enjoy acceptance. The heart knows its own bitterness, and no stranger shares its joy. The house of the wicked will be destroyed, but the tent of the upright will flourish. There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way to death. Even in laughter the heart may ache, and the end of joy may be grief. The backslider in heart will be filled with the fruit of his ways, and a good man will be filled with the fruit of his ways. The simple believes everything, but the prudent gives thought to his steps. One who is wise is cautious and turns away from evil, but a fool is reckless and careless. A man of quick temper acts foolishly, and a man of evil devices is hated. The simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. The evil bow down before the good, the wicked at the gates of the righteous. The poor is disliked even by his neighbor, but the rich has many friends. Whoever despises his neighbor is a sinner, but blessed is he who is generous to the poor. Do they not go astray who devise evil? Those who devise good meet steadfast love and faithfulness. In all toil there is profit, but mere talk tends only to poverty. The crown of the wise is their wealth, but the folly of fools brings folly. A truthful witness saves lives, but one who breathes out lies is deceitful. In the fear of the Lord one has strong confidence, and his children will have a refuge. The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, that one may turn away from the snares of death. In a multitude of people is the glory of a king, but without people a prince is ruined. Whoever is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who is hasty has a hasty temper, exalts folly. A tranquil heart gives life to the flesh, but envy makes the bones rot. Whoever oppresses a poor man insults his maker, but he who is generous to the needy honors him. The wicked is overthrown through his evil doing, but the righteous finds refuge in his death. Wisdom rests in the heart of a man of understanding, but it makes itself known even in the midst of fools. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. A servant who deals wisely has the king's favor, but his wrath falls at one who acts shamefully. Our proverb for the day is verse 12. There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. If I were a contestant on the popular game show Jeopardy, and I picked the category of bad choices, and I was given the answer, 3 things you don't pay attention to, I would give the response, Alex, what are GPS directions, instructions on how to assemble something, and good advice? Sound similar? My wife will tell you that just because I have GPS giving me directions doesn't mean I'm going to follow it. It just seems there must be a better way to get there. My go-to response is more times than not, don't worry, I've been lost here before. And why go to the trouble of reading directions when you buy something that tells you some assembly required? How hard can it be? I just can't resist the challenge of really messing up a project. Well, that's not my intention, but it seems that way. As for advice, well, if I listened to advice, these first 2 examples wouldn't be here. Oddly enough, Solomon realizes we aren't going to listen to this piece of advice the first time, so he repeats it again in chapter 16 and verse 25. Go ahead, look it up. It is the self-delusion that in spite of everything to the contrary, people are going to follow their own desires. It doesn't matter how many times we read George Santayana's saying, "Those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it." Now, it is one thing to get lost on a trip, or to have to take apart a project, or to eat humble pie when we don't listen to advice. Chances are pretty good we'll survive the incident. It is quite another when we consider the scope of what Solomon is alluding to here. For he says, "But its end is the way of death." You don't get the impression he's talking about everyday run-of-the-mill dumb choices. He has his eye on mankind's propensity to turn his back on God. A good example of this might be from the Book of Judges. In Judges chapter 17 and verse 6, it reads, "In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes." And it's repeated again in the last book, in the last chapter of the book, in direct violation to what Moses commanded them in Deuteronomy 12:8. Solomon is stating an overarching principle that has haunted man since Adam and Eve decided to take Satan's advice in the garden. That way seemed right, and I guess you know where that led. Are you listening to God's GPS, the Bible? Are you trying it your own way? And Lord willing, let's meet again tomorrow.